My name is Rick Stefano, and Senior Director of Sales here at Consero. Um, in my role, every year I get to meet with hundreds of CEOs and CFOs, founders of mostly lower middle market businesses, as they're looking at different ways to optimize their finance function. So I get to hear a lot really from the ground of what's working, what's not working, what a lot of people are thinking about. For those of you not familiar with Consero, we're the nationwide leader in finance as a service. So we're about a 1,700 employee organization, primarily helping small, mid-sized businesses, mostly private equity or VC backed. And we help them with accounting software like technology stacks, so systems, improving process, and then people as we outsource some of the foundational accounting work, including FP&A, cleanup work. And we have a pretty specific focus, including software companies, professional service businesses, healthcare services, nonprofits, and investment managers. So today, I'm joined by Matt Ford, serial entrepreneur, founder and CEO at Prism, which is a software company. And Matt developed it's an event management platform fueling the live music and live event space. He's also launched a live music industry podcast. Matt, you're just like a champion, man, for the live music industry. Can you just give the audience kind of an intro to you, Prism, and a little bit of that passion for live music and events?
Yeah. Well, yeah. What was your question? Intro to me.
Yeah,
Um,
just you and Prism.
yeah. So I got into software development when I was in college, and I was just kind of like launching companies out of the dorms, if you will, and like found my way into the live music industry. I built a software system for a promoter in Madison, Wisconsin, and it went really well and kind of introduced me to the chaos of the live music industry. It's been another 10 years since then of unpacking just how crazy it all is. But that was a really deep dive early into my career. So I was very grateful for that. And after that company, I started organizing shows myself and concerts and had a firsthand experience of um, organizing concerts, seeing how hard it is to plan an event, realizing there wasn't tools readily available for that, and then I also had this software background and knew that I could build something that could help venues and promoters manage their business. So that's it in a nutshell. And I think my passion from live music, it just stems from like looking back. I guess it's just a natural thing about like looking back in my life and realizing that a lot of the fun that I had in life has been at concerts and
Yeah.
at shows with friends or family or whatever. Yeah, it's like one of the peak moments of my life is like going to concerts and festivals with great people.
That's awesome. Well, I'm pumped to have you here. I know the audience is going to appreciate your thoughts and views as a CEO and founder of a software business. So again, this webinar is titled, right, Prism's Finance Transformation. So when I think of finance transformation, really in most cases, for most businesses, it can be boiled down into kind of three buckets, right? Systems, process, and people. So for today, really, I just wanted to kind of pick your brain, ask some questions so the audience can hear just Prism's transformation across those three different things. So if we set the stage, you and I met at the end of 2023, right? You had just finished, I think, the Series B. We were introduced by the investor, one of your investors. And at that point, that's when you decided to partner with Consero using the finance as a service model, right? Where we brought in systems, process, and people. Can you give just a background just on the finance and accounting side of where you were at, like when we met before you kind of came out of Consero?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, thank you for asking. It's definitely been a huge help. Before Consero, well before Consero, I started off just closing the books every month myself and not even being close to gap compliant, but having just a general ledger and a model and doing a lot of the modeling myself and on a month-to-month basis, just kind of trying to make sense of how much money did we spend, how much money did we make, what's our recurring expenses, and it was all very, very manual. And slowly we were adopting tools like Expensify, Bill.com. We actually worked with a contractor that is similar to Consero a little bit early into our journey. But they were acquired by a private equity firm, but we were too small for them, and they essentially dropped us. And we had a one person shop that was kind of helping us, and it was relatively affordable. But I would say the closes every month were unreliable, and I was catching a lot of errors, and I would need something for a board meeting and would kind of pull things up last minute and realize like, oh wow, we don't have we're a couple months behind on our reporting. And just in general, it felt like, Expensify was getting out of hand and Bill.com was getting out of hand. And it was just, really, really hard to understand, what was going on. And and around that same time, we were pushing for profitability. And one thing that I've realized in the first 10 years of my journey, I was venture backed and raising money and really, trying my best to conserve that money, but like ultimately focused on growth and product market fit. Now that I'm focused on profitability and, that means like on a month to month basis, like what is the true expense of the business? Um, what is the booked revenue? How much revenue actually gets incurred on a month to month basis? And how many of my 400, I only have 400 customers, but even with that level of customers, it's like pinning down, and God willing that's going to grow this year to 440 or 500, but pinning them down and figuring out, all right, who's paying annually, who's paying monthly, and how much money should we expect to come in the bank account. And then again, when we're profitable and not actively looking for the next investment check to like save our financial situation, really having control of the finances is absolutely key. So it's been game changing. It's saved a lot of time for me, and it's just been, really, really helpful.
Yeah. No, that's helpful. And I think when we met, right, it was taking a long time before the books were closed, right? You had to wait a little bit. I think it was what, at least 20 days before?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, at least
Yeah.
sometimes it went beyond that, well
Yeah.
beyond that. Yeah.
And I see, this is very common, right? Where it's like eventually there's a fork in the road where the finance function kind of has to mature, right? It's got to go to that next stage. So when we met, you knew at that point, hey, some changes are going to need to be met or made, right? Both from systems and people. Um, and then we did our assessment, right? Where during the evaluation phase, we kind of walked through, got some sample information. We did a systems map to understand, all right, where's all the revenue streams? How are things talking to each other? What's manual versus automated? And we really dug in and we came back with the recommendation that, yeah, the finance as a service where we would change out and put in Sage Intacct as the GL, and then, use some other tools, and then Simple would be kind of the solution. And then our team structure is your main point of contact is kind of the VP of finance. Can you, but if we talk about the people for a second, can you just describe the level of support you get from the Consero VP of Finance, maybe compared to, and not just the last provider, but even previous ones? Because a lot of times I think people think bookkeeping and finance as a service is kind of the same thing, but generally VP of Finance and like bookkeeping, they're pretty different. So can you maybe explain uh, about the VP of Finance?
Yeah, Moeed is our VP of finance. He's been fantastic. I've really enjoyed working with him. There's been a few moments where I've been, I guess, bubbling with anxiety about like how do I make sense of this, or like what's going on here, and he'll jump on a call with me immediately and get into the weeds of the spreadsheet. And Moeed has been, yeah, absolutely fantastic, and overseeing the process the whole time. And it's just been a really, really great resource. And outside of kind of making sure that the books are kept up, we do a quarterly review where he goes over like trends in the business and how much we're spending, and how much we're spending versus other kind of companies our size that Consero sees. And that has been very enlightening and insightful. And I think at one point I realized that we were investing it disproportionately into product development, and we continued to do that, but it was just good to know, like, okay, wow, like
Yeah,
we're not under investing into product development. We actually, when we looked at Prism compared to a lot of other companies, we're definitely, we claim to be a product first company, and we put our money where our mouth is. And then just kind of helping me realize, like, okay, if I feel like we need to go deeper into building out more and more product, well, I'm already spending so much into product. So it is do it helps me understand, like, do I have good reason to double or
yeah,
triple down on my product spend, even knowing that I'm already kind of comparatively spending a lot on product. And
yeah,
that's been super helpful. So yeah, Moeed's been great.
yeah. And I see a lot of times most people don't even really get regular meetings with like outsourced bookkeepers, right? Financials kind of get thrown over the fence, and it's like, hey,
Yeah.
the analysis is left on you versus somebody kind of saying, hey, I understand your business. I understand what's going on. I understand last month. I understand this month, some of the goals. You feel like it's a different level of service having kind of one contact like Muid.
Yeah, there's definitely I've excuse me. I've access to more of the team than just Muid, but
Yeah.
Muid has definitely been a North Star or like a compass through the whole experience. And yeah, the over and over again, I see that Consero is committed to handling my big challenges, and we from where when Consero first handed over the model that they created for us, we've gone through many changes of iterations, and that hasn't stopped yet. And there's always been a really positive attitude to kind of continue making it better and better and better.
Yeah.
And that's definitely deeply appreciated. And again, I'm in a phase of my career or my company where, admittedly, when I'm focused on growth and product market fit, again, like I need to generally know what's happening in the Bing account, but I wasn't obsessing over the model and how we're tracking things, and what we're calling recurring expenses versus not. And I had a much more kind of top level understanding of our finances, and in switching to running a profitable business, Consero or something like it is definitely required to, like, really kind
Yeah.
of, do I can I look at my model and say over the next year we're gonna go, I'm gonna use a round number, we're gonna go spend $4 million, or like, am I not looking at my recurring expenses correctly, and we're actually gonna go and spend $10 million, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
be in a cash crunch crisis. Like, I think
Yeah.
these things like have deeply mattered in this season of my of Prism, and me as an entrepreneur, switching from growth and product market fit to like running a well fundamental business. Something like Consero has been extremely helpful.
Awesome. And so we've reduced the business day close, right? The time it takes to close. Would that
Yeah,
be? Yeah.
yeah. Close is very consistent, and that's deeply appreciated. So I can count. I think it's 15 business days. I get the close, and it's without fail. I mean, it's almost 100%. So yeah,
Yeah.
if not 100%.
Awesome. Um, I also remember when we initially spoke, I kind of went back to my notes, and I remember some of the things, if we talk about systems, and there was we talked about kind of expenses, getting a little bit of a black box kind of visibility into expenses. Can you talk about maybe the tech stack that Consero brought on, and simple, and kind of the visibility that you might get into, you know, whether it's daily working capital metrics or even at the end of the month?
Yeah, Simple is we have Bill.com flowing through Simple, all of our finances. If I need to pull kind of high level reports, I can do that. It's But my understanding of Simple is it's because we have the FP&A team. They're using Simple to generate a lot of the reports that I'm spending most of my time in, but it's an engine that's running in the background and is
Yeah.
highly useful and simple to use to go in and pay bills, approve bills, and then just to see as the if I have any questions on specific you know um,
Transactions or whatever.
yeah,
Yep.
cells in the P&L, I can jump over to Simple and kind of dive into the details. So it's a really helpful system of record. Yeah, it's great.
Cool. And then, as we all know, making any system changes is never easy, um, right? Whether it's one system or multiple systems. Can you speak about just, I guess, the commitment, that you've seen from our team during the transition to make sure that we get things, the system stood up, processes in place. Um, can you talk anything about that?
Um, I'm sorry. Can you summarize the
Just the
question?
onboarding, just kind of like more of the onboarding process, and that we, even though it might not be all sunshine and rainbows, that event, that we always will be pushing to get things stood up properly.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, so the onboarding process was, I think Consero took over a lot of our operation, from bookkeeping to approvals to general ledger and getting the model going and connecting to all of our existing systems and and they pulled it off. I mean, it was a big undertaking, and there was a good team that was there to handle that. And again, like I think Muid was a North Star compass through the whole process, and just and something that was always going to be painful, like making it less painful. So yeah,
Yeah,
the team behind Consero is definitely deeply appreciated.
cool. Do you find yourself spending less time in the tactical accounting and even month end and creation of reports and things
Uh,
like that?
yeah, absolutely. It's there, yeah, a lot less time. I mean, I'm spending less time in the things that I don't want to be doing, and I'm
Yeah,
able to spend more time on the things that I am that that I do want to be kind of dealing with and doing. So I guess both are true at the same time. Yeah,
yeah,
but
cool.
overall, because of Consero, I can focus on the things that matter
Right.
that I should
Nice.
be putting
Yeah,
my attention on. Yeah,
yeah. And I think that's the whole goal, right? Is taking off some of the lower level things, whether it's you or uh, other in-house team that might have a CFO. Um, so most their attention could be on the more important things. Um, so one of the other things was, do you have any just I guess advice to any other CEO on the line, founder, somebody that's in growth mode, saying, okay, I can't keep doing the accounting myself, or maybe just this, smaller, maybe my small CPA that I'm paying, a little bit of money to close the books. Um, there's kind of that decision of starting to hire in-house, buy your own ERP and systems, or use a service. Any
yeah,
advice for somebody going through, maybe coming up to that fork in the road and
yeah. I mean, I think in terms of just it was a great thing for me to delegate in this season, and it allowed me to focus on the strategy and growing the business and asking the tough questions about what's working and what's not working with the business. And I was spending a lot of time before. I was either spending a lot of time before or just not having what I needed and stressing a lot. And it's a piece of the business that just isn't something that should be skimped on or delayed. And I think can Concero's fee is less than even one full-time employee to do this. And I think one full-time employee, I think, could be uh, like you get a team of people doing this and working in systems and like doing a lot of the things that I don't think we need to necessarily own in house. And it lets us kind of have a culture of building a really great product and deeply understanding our customers. And like you said, me doing my podcast, and I feel like I'm it's a piece of my business that so as long as it's properly delegated, I'm fine to delegate because it doesn't really like fit into the culture of what we're doing. And for a small team, I think that's great. It allows us again just to be like a live music software company versus like this a small business that like has that's like doing a ton of accounting things. Like it's just been a very powerful thing to delegate.
yeah, awesome. Um, if I go backwards, back to the evaluation process in that assessment, when we, took a look at how things are working and then came up with the recommendation, you remember if it felt like it was time consuming? I think it's less than 2 meetings that we do it in, little data request. Um, and I think we turned around pretty quick, but do you remember the process of us kind of just sitting down and asking, all right, when you sign up a new client, how does that work? Would you say it's pretty painless to go through the assessment?
Um, Sorry,
During
which
the sales
assessment?
process. During
Oh
the
yeah,
sales process, yeah,
got it during the sales process. Okay,
yeah,
versus onboarding. Yeah, yeah. I mean, the sales process was great. You were great, Rick, and it definitely was pretty seamless to go through. Yeah, I mean, onboarding was a different beast and like getting all the systems put in place, but the sales process was great.
yeah. Um, Good. And so we talked about the kind of the system migration. We talked about process and the team structure. Maybe can you just expand a little bit on, you said there's more than just your VP of Finance, Muid, right? That there's other folks. Can you just give us a sense of, the other team that you interact with?
So there's the accounting, there's the kind of model team is one that I interact with quite a lot, and that's
Yeah.
just like the FP&A team has probably been the one that I've interacted with the most outside of Muid. And the FP&A team has been, yeah, again, like I think for me, really, really, as we move into profitability, like really understanding what our recurring expenses are. And I think I'm just actually flashing back to something that was always a little bit harder for me to handle before Consero was just really having my grip around um, payroll. And I think we're in a season of around 20 full-time employees, and at one point we're around 30. And there could just I never had, and we were using Insperity before,
Mhm.
so I never felt as confident as I wanted to feel in the expenses that were easy to pin down, even like payroll, just in terms of the taxes and the healthcare we were paying and 401k, like what is the pure expense, leaving the business in terms of payroll. And the FP&A team has been really, really good with that, and constantly just okay, tweaking the model. And we have interest in our bank account, for instance. And the other week I realized that um, they had already built it into the model, that they kind of were automatically calculating the interest we were saving, and then that was being factoring in like to our gross spend every month. And so again, I think I'm getting closer and closer to having 100% confidence in like what our spend is, thanks to the FP&A team. And yeah, they've been very, very good to help with. I don't think there's a problem that I've thrown at them that they haven't been able to solve or help me understand. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, I mean, those were most of the questions. I mean, is there anything else that you would add? Otherwise, I think there's a few questions that have kind
Sure.
of come in from the audience, but um,
Yeah, let's do questions.
yeah. So this one is probably more directed at me than it is you, but there's a question about specific systems and ERPs that Consero prefers that the client like you would use. Um, if we go back to like the systems that you're using, I remember there was Stripe and ChargeBee, your payroll system. So when we work with folks, we don't mandate anything like that changes. So the Stripes, Charges, they can stay in place for a lot of the higher transactional stuff and automated. A lot of times, more traditional invoicing we would do, and the ERP could be used. We could use anything. We only implement Sage Intacct, so that's the tech stack that we use in our finance as a service. But there are other instances when clients are already running, NetSuite or Dynamics or Acumatica, whatever, and we can still use those systems. But for some of the operational and CRM, we don't touch those. We don't change them. You still using Salesforce, Matt?
No, we're in HubSpot, which has
Oh,
been
okay.
a great transition. Couldn't recommend that one more for teams that don't need Salesforce.
Yeah, nice. Um, yeah, so we're pretty agnostic when it comes to systems. Again, we know Sage Intacct inside and out. And then while clients are on the finance as a service model, it's all part of. So, Matt, you don't pay a Sage Intacct invoice. That's part of just our monthly recurring fee. You don't pay the Bill.com invoice or for any other software. It's all part of the service. Um, let's see. Here's another question. So, I guess it's talking more to the time and the availability of a VP of finance, right? Which is the main point of contact. Do you get charged time and materials for that person, or is it included? So I guess Matt Moeed's time. Do you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm on the clock and I can't reach out to him, or I'm going to get a bill, or is it just all part of the deal?
Uh, that's probably a better question answer for you. I
Yeah.
think in terms of time and availability, I have plenty of Moeed's time, but you could speak to
Yeah.
what the model is. Yeah, on your end. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you've got no surprise bills, right?
Yeah.
So,
No.
yeah.
I
Okay.
was like, speaking
Yeah.
of.
No, no, no. Yeah. We don't charge time and materials. It's really designed to be one simple fee. You get access to the team. Doesn't matter how many hours. One week it's 5, the next week it's 10. Yeah, there's no additional cost for that. Um, good deal. Well, I don't know if there's any other questions. I can only see some of them, Allison. There is a survey, correct, Allison, that's going to be going out?
Yeah, there is right at the end of this event. So please share your feedback in that survey. Thank you.
Yeah, if there's topics that you'd like to see on our next, discussion with, one of our partners and clients, throw them in there. If there's a portfolio company that you invest in and you want to learn a little bit more about the assessment process and what that looks like, just put assessment in that field. Or if you're a CFO or CEO of a company and you have questions, just put assessment. We can follow up. There's no cost to it. But Matt, appreciate your time. Thank you for spending 30 minutes with us.
Hey, you
And
bet.
you're, I think you're awesome. I think your what your business does is really, really cool. And the
Thank
resounding
you.
feedback for Prism is just is outstanding. So thanks for
Definitely
the
find the
time.
good. Yeah, definitely find the good fight over here, and thank you for helping. Yeah.
You got it.
Thanks, Rick and Matt.